You're more attracted to the pixels than an actual woman. So now you're gonna deal with performance anxiety, right? That's another thing you have to worry about. Don't even talk about PED. Boys, what is up? It's your boy Robin Teddy's here again with another video. And today, guys, I'm gonna talk about something a little bit more serious. And the topic of today is NoFap. Now, I know millions of you guys, millions of men across the world struggle with NoFap. And, a lot of you guys just don't see a problem. If you're still struggling with NoFap and, touching yourself and watching porn, you simply just don't see a problem with it. And that's why you keep doing it, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it. And that mentality is so destructive. It's so detrimental to your mind, body, and soul, and you don't even know it. Now, I'm probably one of the most qualified people to talk about this, and I'm going to tell you guys my story, right? So it all started back in 7th grade. I was 12 or 13 years old, and I remember it vividly. I was at lunch, and one of my boys asked me, he was like, yo, have you ever watched porn? And I was like, yeah, right? At this time, I watched it, but I never, I never beat off to it. And pretty much he was like, yo, but have you ever masturbated? I'm just like, nah, bro, I never tried it. It just sounded weird to me, so I just never did it. And what he did was he gave me an account, right? So pretty much, guys, his older cousin that was already in high school was on this football team, and each and every single player on the football team shared this one porn account. I'm not going to say the name, just know that it started with a B. This website started with a B, and it had a Z in there, right? You can use your imagination. So pretty much all 45, 50 of the football players on this team had this one account, and they were all sharing this one account. And pretty much his cousin gave him the username and password to that account, and he was using it as well. So he told me, he was like, yo, bro, you got to try it. It's one of the best feelings in the world once you release. So I was like, you know what, bro? I'll give it a shot, right? So he gave me the username and password, and I went home and I did the thing, right? And like he said, it was one of the best feelings I ever had in my whole life. And from that point on, I was an avid user. I was an avid fapper for almost 10 years, right? Now, let's just say, 3 to 4 years after that first time that I did it, I was telling myself all right, bro, this is getting boring. I want to see what the real thing feels like. So I would say when I was probably, I think 10th or 11th grade, I lost my virginity, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be like. So in my head, I'm I wasn't thinking fapping was the problem. I was thinking maybe it was probably the girl. I didn't finish. I lost my virginity, but I didn't finish. So now I'm thinking it was probably because the girl wasn't that good looking, which she wasn't. She wasn't good looking at all. So I was like, you know what? It was probably that, right? So that's when I got my first piece of ass, right? 10th grade. Then 2 years later, I got with a girl, and she looked really good, right? This was actually my girlfriend, and this girl actually looked good. So I'm like, all right, let me try it again this time, and let's see. So, I had a little bit of a better experience with this girl, right? This my girlfriend, but it still wasn't like what I thought it was gonna be like, what I thought it was gonna be like in those corn scenes. So now I'm thinking what's going on? So a couple months go past, and I stopped fapping for a little while. I think I stopped fapping for a week or two. And then, we did the deed, and it was amazing. So now I'm thinking maybe I should stop doing this. Maybe I should stop relieving myself with my own hand, and maybe I should just start doing it with my girl all the time. But, that didn't work out. Some things happened, and then we broke up, and then I started fapping again. I was an avid user again. I was going to the porn websites. I was beating my meat each and every single day. And the thing is, guys, the reason why I'm saying I'm so qualified to talk about this is because I was doing this shit religiously, bro. I was literally relieving myself each and every single day without fail. Every day, bro. It was an everyday thing. It wasn't until I came across some other YouTubers that were doing NoFap, and they were preaching about NoFap, and that's when I started to take it a little bit more serious, right? So I started out with 100 days. I did 100 days of NoFap because I understood at that point, this shit is detrimental. This is detrimental to my mind, body, and soul. So I started doing it, right? I started doing 100 days cold turkey, and I actually completed it. But I would say about day 70, I kind of thought I thought I was bigger than the program, right? I tried to do it my way. So I fapped, but I didn't release. And I'm thinking like, okay, this doesn't really count because I didn't release. But in reality, bro, you shouldn't be fapping at all, right? So technically I did 100 days without releasing. So technically I did semen retention, but it wasn't really no fap, right? But anyways, guys, I digress. So I did 100 days and, I felt a lot better. I had less brain fog. When I had sex, it was actually good. I could actually finish. And that's another thing too, guys. When you're digging out a girl and you're lasting like 45 minutes to an hour, that's not a good thing. That's a red flag, bro. Girls don't actually like that. When they say they want a man that can go for hours, they're really talking about like 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. Guys, these girls don't have a good sense of time, right? So when they say, oh, I want a man to last for hours, guys, you should not be lasting for 45 minutes to an hour. You should not be doing that. Now, if it's rounds, okay, that's different, right? If it's all broken up into rounds, that's different. But one go, you should not be lasting hours. Girls do not like that. That's going to fuck up their self-esteem. They're going to be like, why is this guy taking forever to finish? Is there something wrong with me? And then girls fight. It's a turnoff. And then some girls are actually hip to what's going on. And some of them realize like, yo, this guy is addicted to corn. This guy's addicted to fapping. This guy is, a loser, right? So some girls are going to start to treat you differently. They're not going to respect you the same once they figure out that, you beat your meat each and every single day. And another thing that you guys also have to understand is a woman has to respect you first before she even sleeps with you. So do you really think she's going to respect a man who can't resist his urges, beats off the pixels each and every single night, and can't even perform when it comes time to get down to business? Or do you think she's going to respect that strong-minded man who can resist his urges, performs well in bed, and doesn't give in to instant gratification? Think about it. Which one is she going to choose? Right? So that's where a lot of you guys are at. A lot of you guys can't resist your urges. A lot of you guys indulge in instant gratification, and that's why you can't keep your hands out of your pants. That's the sad truth, right? And another thing too, guys, imagine, right? Imagine you somehow pull a 10 out of 10. You somehow pull a baddie, right? You get her back to your place. You guys are doing foreplay. Everything is going well. And then when she whips it out, it can't even get hard. Think about that for a second. You know how bad that feels? Now, I'm not saying that exact thing happened to me, but it was close, right? So there's been times where when I used to beat my meat, a girl would put a condom on me and I would go limp. Or, I do like a couple strokes and then I get limp. And that is directly correlated and related to me not being able to stop fapping. I'm telling you the truth, bro. That exact thing happened because I couldn't stop fapping. I couldn't keep my hand out my pants, right? So now you're going to deal with performance anxiety, right? That's another thing you have to worry about. Don't even talk about PED, right? Corn-induced erectile dysfunction, right? That should scare you. I'm not gonna lie, that's horrifying to me. Bro, if you're below 40 and you're experiencing ED, it's strictly because, it could be a couple things, but I'm telling you, it's most likely because you can't stop fapping and your testosterone completely plummeted, right? Probably because you can't stop fapping. So I'm telling you, brother, next time you think about pulling up that video, think about the potential risks, but think about what could happen, right? It's happened to some of my boys. I'm gonna be honest with you. And every time they tell me it, they have this huge sense of guilt and shame. That is one of the worst feelings you can feel as a man, is guilt and shame, bro. And they didn't even have to tell me they were fapping beforehand. I could tell they were, right? Just off of the way they told me the story. It is one of the most shameful things. And then you have to create some excuse. You have to create some sorry excuse to the girl. Oh, I'm tired. Or, I'm not ready yet, or some BS, bro. And she's gonna sniff that BS right out. She's gonna sniff it, bro. She can tell. I'm telling you, bro, a woman's intuition never fails, bro. She can tell if you've been fapping, bro. I'm telling you, bro. She can tell. She can tell when something is up. So I'm telling you right now, brother, don't let that be you, because I'm telling you right now, it's one of the most embarrassing, one of the most shameful things ever. Ever. You can't even perform. You can't even do one of the main things you're supposed to be doing as a man, is perform. Imagine that. And then you get those guys that, when they feel like they're gonna have a slip up, they go to the bathroom, rub one out really quick, and then get ready to have sex with a real woman. Imagine that. Imagine that, bro. You're more attracted to the pixels than an actual woman. It should never get to that point, bro. It should never get to that point. Never. And guys, one of the things that I would tell myself to keep going, right? To keep indulging into this porn was that, I'm a gym bro. I go to the gym all the time. I have higher testosterone than the average guy, right? Which was true, If you go to the gym, you prioritize your health, you're going to have a higher testosterone level than an average man, right? But that doesn't give you the excuse to go relieve yourself. That doesn't give you the excuse. If anything, bro, I'd argue that it's better to be able to call up a bad chick to come relieve that tension for you, rather than relieve it in the bathroom, rather than relieve it in your bedroom by yourself, right? And then expel your fluids all over yourself. That is so sad, bro. That is so sad. And I'm telling you, bro, I'm not speaking of a place of, you guys are all pathetic if you do it, bro. I used to do it too. I used to be worse than you probably, bro. So this is why I'm telling you to stop. Because I've seen the other side. I've seen the dark side of this shit, bro. And a lot of guys will not tell you this, bro. A lot of your day-to-day homeboys, a lot of your boys will not tell you this. A lot of them will not have this conversation with you, right? Because it's weird, or it doesn't matter that much. It's not that deep. It's not that serious. And I'm telling you it is, bro. I'm telling you it is. Because I'm telling you, bro, when you don't perform, you're thinking about corn all day. You have brain fog. It's controlling your life. You can only see life from a lustful lens. You can't focus at work. You can't focus in the gym. It's because you're fapping, bro. So it is that deep. It is that serious. And you get those guys that cope with it, right? They be like, it's not that bad in my case because, I only watched 2 girls do it, right? Guys, how does that make it any better? You're watching it because you want to do those things in those scenes, right? So you want to reenact the scene, and it's 2 girls. So you can't even get 1 girl to sleep with you. What makes you think that you can get 2? It's never going to happen. If you're still fapping, bro, that's never going to happen, bro. I'm telling you. So let's talk about how you actually overcome this now, right? So when it comes to beating this addiction, when it comes to beating fapping, right? And, actually engaging in no fap, it's no real magic trick, and it's not that complicated. Now, I wouldn't say go cold turkey. I wouldn't say beat any addiction by going cold turkey. However, you do have to mitigate it and limit it pretty fast, right? So, for example, if you're doing it every day, bro, cut it down to 3 the next week. Then the next week, cut it down to 2, so on and so forth, right? You just have to limit the amount of times you do it each and every single week. And also, too, you have to become the man that doesn't fap. You have to live in congruency with the man who gets a bunch of hot chicks. A man who can pretty much dictate his life and, control his life. You have to be in congruency with that type of man, right? That type of man doesn't fap, bro. It's just that simple. He just doesn't. There's no man that is successful, can get any woman he wants and control and has full control of his life that faps, bro. It doesn't happen, bro. There's no congruency there. So it starts with the discipline as well, right? You have to embark on some type of journey, right? Fitness journey, a financial journey, whatever it is, bro. You have to chase something. And in chasing that, you'll find the discipline enough to stop all these vices and, stop all these addictions. And for the longest time, I would tell myself, like, you know, I'm a gym bro, you know, I'm chasing this, you know, fitness journey, and I don't really have that many bad addictions or vices anymore, right? You know, I stopped smoking, I stopped drinking. The only thing that was killing me was the fapping. So once I knocked that out, once I knocked the fapping out of my routine, and I was able to, you know, live each and every single day sober minded, that's when I made the most progress in my fitness journey. You know, that's when I had the most ease. You know, that's when I had the least amount of brain fog. I was focused, you know, I was determined, and I could, you know, complete my actual goal. So the thing is, guys, a lot of you guys just don't have any ambition for anything in life sometimes. You know, you guys aren't chasing something. You guys aren't actively going after something. And that's why you resort to fapping, because your life is just boring. At the end of the day, you know, you go to work, you know, you probably go to the gym sometimes, and then you go home, you get bored, and then you beat your meat, right? Live a fulfilling life. Live a life that your future self would be proud of. If your life is boring, you have nothing going for yourself, of course you're gonna fap, bro. Your life is boring. Nothing's going on in your life. So yeah, man, that was pretty much my story with NoFap, and why you guys should stop immediately and how to overcome it. You know, if you guys still struggle with discipline and, you know, fapping and all these other things and these vices, your life is going to be harder than it already is, bro. I'm telling you, bro. So stop as soon as you can. You know, get your hand out your pants, find a real woman, and, you know, chase something in life, bro. But all right, guys, that was the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, I want you guys to like, comment, and subscribe for the algorithm. And until next time, guys, I'm out.